Man, we'll talk about a beautiful disaster. It's a rainy Sunday and perfect day to start getting my fireworks boards set up. So this isn't going to be too in-depth, but I'll give you an idea of kind of where I'm at and want to share a couple of tips or tricks I use because I use the long fuse method versus buying a $2,000 Cobra system, which is probably about what I need to spend with the audio system and the whole thing to fire it individually and fully electronically. But I got my main board set up, so this is the main body of the show. Got 1A, so the 200 gram stuff and some tracers. 1B, focus, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, and 1F. What you see on top here, these numbers, these are just temporary on the tape, but this is the number of seconds on each one of these boards. The reason I know that, and I'll show you that in a little bit, I've got a little spreadsheet that I carry out here with me that tells me exactly what each one of these cakes runs, but I also measure out my fuse, type of fuse, and it's very important for me to make sure I know exactly how long each one of these burns, so I can mimic that to my soundtrack. So this is, again, the main body. This is 13 minutes and 10 seconds, I believe. And the finale will be the next, the finale boards will be the next thing that I begin to wire. And how I do this is I bring out a little printout here. It tells me each cake that I've got in my show, number of shots in that cake, the burn time, which is the time not from the fuse being lit, but from the first shell taken off out of the case, or out of the cake, to the last shell breaking. Next to that is the fuse length. And so for that absolution being the first one on the list here, 21.71 inches of cannon fuse, the green stuff, is what I would need to put in line between that cake and the next cake if I want a perfectly smooth transition, so that it's not overwriting, shooting over the cake before it or after it, and that I don't have a blank space. So sometimes, in those early boards, there's a lot of cakes in there. But I like a slow build, and so these are actually double stacked there. There's a lot in there. But a lot of those early boards are just from one cake into the next cake into the next cake, gives you a nice smooth timing. Actually, we'll look at that top one's a good example. So I got 6 inches of quick fuse on this one, or it's like 5.5 inches, because that's the timing that I need from one to the next to the next to the next, all the way through. And in some cases I need quick fuse to jump to make it stretch to get to the next cake. But they're all done the same way. Depending on how long each one of these cakes are, I'll switch different types of fuses. But the important thing is I've got all the information to make those decisions while I'm wiring it handy. Alright, so for example, let's put this into practice. Here's number 2A. So second ignition, which is the beginning of the finale. This is the first board in my finale. Finale will run a couple of minutes, probably about 3 minutes or so. It starts out pretty good and just eventually ramps up to complete insanity. So this is the pretty good start, and what that includes is I'll have the Sky Ballet, which is a zipper cake, going off at the same time. I know this is a 58-second cake because I have my chart. So I want to make sure I've got aerials going up with this for the full 58 seconds, and I want them to end at the same time. So I am quick fusing 2 of these guys together. So I have 16 shells, and these take 27 seconds per unit. So these 2 are going to go off together, 16 shells in 27 seconds, which gets me about halfway through this case. As soon as that's done, I'm going to use the cannon fuse, probably 1 4 inches. I don't know, I haven't done the math yet. And once these are done burning, that fuse will come over and light these guys to meet the end of this at 58 seconds. So this board starts together and ends together. We're going to have a total of 32 aerial shells, along with I don't remember how many's on here. Where's the cover? 121 shots of the Sky Ballet. You also notice I pull all the tops off of my shells, and I do that for the obvious reason, which is it makes cleaning up a whole lot easier. everything you see in this bucket, and there's a ton of this stuff in here. This would all just be blown into a million pieces and be work for me to clean up after the show. If you take the tops off, all you have to worry about is the shells themselves. Half the time that stuff burns up on its way down. The other half of the time it is so small it's not even noticeable, and kind of takes care of itself. There's still some cleanup involved without question, but this really, cutting the tops off really cuts down on it. The other thing that's great about cutting the tops off is you can see exactly what you're dealing with for a cake. Don't always trust the labeling on the cakes. Some will tell you to face it a certain way for the display. It should show the face. Some of them do not. I've opened up cases that did not tell you to face this way towards a spectator, and come to find out there's angled mortars in there. So when you cut the tops off, you're saving yourself cleanup time, but you're also making sure that you get the most out of your fireworks, and also that you don't have a safety issue. Because had this guy be turning this way, all of a sudden we're shooting. Not only were we losing the effect, but we're now shooting towards our crowd, which is not a good thing. So I highly recommend you take off the tops for those two reasons. I also, again, highly recommend get the most bang for your fireworks buck, so that you don't have stuff overshooting each other and you don't have big gaps. Take the time. This is an Excel spreadsheet. I usually just write this stuff on paper. This year I started doing a spreadsheet, and I'll just add to it as I buy different things. But this has been very handy in making sure I have an accurately timed show that isn't wasting money by putting too much in the sky at once, and then hopefully isn't going to have any gaps. Now, the truth of it is, this is going to be a 17 or so minute show. Am I bound to have a gap here or there? Probably. But every year that's my goal, is to minimize that or eliminate it. And hopefully this year I'm paying a lot more attention and really measuring out my fuse lengths. Hopefully I get down to no gaps, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I got plenty of work to do and hundreds of artillery shells to load and fuse. So I'll keep enjoying my rainy Sunday. Hope you do as well. Have a good day.